What's up, everyone, and welcome back here to ClearTalk. In this video, we're going to be updating on what's going on in the Middle East. Because, we had, it was just, what was it, just last week, the war was over. We were done. There was no war anymore. But yet we were still, trying to gain control of a strait, so we had to do military actions and operations. But it's not a war, but yet and we can do it all ourselves, but now we need help from people, but yet we don't need any help, and we are we're not going to strike oil infrastructure, but then oil infrastructure is struck, and it's just escalation. The war is escalating. Iran has, we've obliterated 100% of their stuff, but yet they're actually increasing strikes now. We're gonna update on all that. So thank you very much for joining me here, and welcome. If you're new, welcome to ClearTalk. If you would like to check out more videos from the channel, please do so. Consider subscribing, like, share, comment, all that good stuff to get more videos in front of more people. If you would like to check out videos from my other channels, you have JMD there, JMDPLAY, JMD Puzzling. If you like what you see there, consider subscribing to those as well. That would be amazing. We're a little over 1,000 there on JMD. Trying to get all the rest of them to at least 500. It's so please subscribe. It's free for you. It helps out me and it helps out the JMD Nation tremendously. Don't even have to do notifications. If you don't want the notification bell and stuff, don't click on it. It's fine, but just subscribe. If you'd like to go even further, though, there's Patreon there, $3. $3, you can support any of the channels that you would like to help grow those channels, to help grow Patreon, and to help grow the JMD Nation and contribute to that growth however you would like. That would be amazing. And thank you very much for any contribution support you do give. It's very much appreciated. And if you are returning, you're freaking amazing. You are amazing, and I'll tell you that every time. Welcome back. Keep coming back, because you are what makes JMD Nation. Okay, so, and ClearTalk. All right, so what's going on? Military targets that were previously considered like off limits apparently are no more off limits. We have continued strikes happening across both boards. As we talked about previously, Karg Island was off limits, and then we bombed Karg Island. Now, we did point out specifically that it was made like, a point that we only targeted military installations and we did not target oil infrastructure, okay, which was very important because Karg Island is like 90% of the production and stuff or that pass through for Iran is there, and if you destroy that, then you destroy like the lifeline of the economy for Iran, which would be devastating for Iran if in any kind of rebuild or reconstruction after the day after that is continuing to not be revealed. And it's being more and more reveal, or to what it is being revealed is that the U.S. has a completely different objective than Israel, and that's basically kind of been obvious from the get-go. But it's becoming even more and more revealed there. But as far as the what is actually going to be the end game is still, I think, up in arms there. And then on top of that, what oil infrastructure and stuff has been attacked or previously been attacked was more of like your transfer stations and stuff, things that yes, does impact and yes, does affect to some degree, but the main thing that you usually do not target is like the main oil fields, okay? That can do devastating damage and can cripple the ability to produce oil for any area, any nation if done. And that's the one thing that is supposed to be off limits. I mean, there are a lot of things that are supposed to be off limits that seem to eventually somehow get attacked. And like children's schools and hospitals and infrastructure and stuff like that. Like those are things that are not supposed to be attacked, but yet it's been done. It's been done by us. It's been done by Israel. And of course, it's been done by Iran in retaliation. Okay. Iran has said from the get go, and that's what's incredible. It's incredible. Iran has said from the get go, and they've always been this way, tit for tat. If you attack us, we will attack you. And it's specific to what that is. If you attack our military, we'll attack your military. If you attack our oil infrastructure, we'll attack your oil infrastructure. If you attack, it's the tit for tat. And that's kind of like the understanding in war, really like a basic 101 of war. Whatever you attack, modern war anyway, whatever you attack, we will retaliate in the same way. And that's the way Iran has played in this entire conflict, and has played in previous. It is in what is coming even more clear. Also, is that the restraint that Iran has had in previous moments of conflict. Well, the ideas that Iran that is often tried to be sold by our administration, by Israel, whatever, was that Iran is so erratic and they're so crazy, and that in any moment they'll just obliterate everybody. But yet we went decades with them doing the exact opposite of that. They have showed incredible restraint in all facets of attacks that have been made on them, even by people that at times they've worked with during like I've talked before, during even the Iran war back in the 80s. Iraq did a illegal chemical attack on Iran, and Iran did not even reciprocate in this back on that. They let it go. They have showed restraint over and over and over and over again, even assisting us through 9/11, even though we turned around and then claimed them a part of the axis of evil. They're like, bro, they just X'd us. Like, you know what? Never mind. Don't worry about it. We'll work on it on our own. Don't, y'all want to call us evil, fine, whatever. You do your thing, but they continued to work and help eliminate ISIS and help eliminate they have shown incredible restraint, even in the bombings last year and before that. Coordinating. We've talked about how they coordinated stuff with the U.S. and Israel on retaliatory strikes, letting us know exactly what they were going to do, exactly how many they were going to shoot, so that we would, easily be able to take them out and no damage, and no one be hurt. Does that sound like a country and government that is just so erratic and willing to just destroy everything at any moment? No. But now, after everything that has happened now, and all that we have attacked and done, now they are stating, you know what? We fucked up. We hurt ourselves. We will no longer show restraint anymore. That will never happen again. That's what they are saying now. We showed restraint before because we were trying our best to not have a war. We were trying our best to not have what has happened right now happen. But our restraint, our control only empowered you and emboldened you into thinking that we were weak and that you could do whatever with us that you wanted to. No longer is that going to be the case. And yes, we have done a lot of damage to their abilities to attack us. We have, did a lot of damage to their Air Force. We've done a lot of damage to their naval force. But they have continued to show their relentlessness. Relentlessness. Feel like that's right. To continue carrying on attacks. And where we've had the administration, Trump, Hegseth, all these, it's talking about how we've, with it's 100% obliterated or 90% obliterated. Other figures that are a little bit probably more competent coming out and being like, well, it's actually like 70% on their missile ability. We're kind of unsure about the drones, but it. And we were seeing a reduction. Okay, we were seeing a reduction in Iran sending out missiles and strikes, and we were seeing that reduction. But the question was that because they actually literally are, incapable of shooting more than that, or were they restraining themselves? And apparently, in the past few days, it has shown clear that they were actually doing that. They were playing the possum thing. They were restraining themselves and holding back to wait and see what we were going to do to continue. Because it has been said from the beginning that we were low on ammunitions. We were low on interceptors. That for us to actually and we were blowing through interceptors like crazy. We hit them hard off the bat. Israel hit us, and Iran were shooting back massively with their what they claimed was their old stockpile, and that's becoming more and more true along with time, and we just to take out as many of our interceptors as they possibly could. And now that we are lower in stock, and that's been reported over and over and over again, that we were worried about stock across multiple of the Gulf states. We've seen an increase in their inability to actually intercept what is coming in. Even when Iran was shooting fewer strikes, those strikes were actually impacting more and more. Okay, because of the inability from interceptors to block them, and that was becoming more and more obvious. So what they were, that's basically what they were doing, was having us reduce down, knocking out as many of our interceptors as they could. And now when they, decide to retaliate, they're now going to retaliate in a way where we can't block them, or there will be lesser ability to block them. And that's the reason why you are seeing more and more strikes actually penetrating from Iran and penetrating all over the place when they do strike. Okay. Again, Trump is talked like these are, these are, at one moment he acts like these are low IQ, they don't have the genes that we have, kind of statements, but then turns around and in another interview or another question asked, states that we're dealing with really smart people here. We're still we're not dealing with people unintelligent people. They're really smart. They know what they're doing. So which is it? I mean, again, with his constant back and forth on, are we done with the war? We're not done with the war. We have plenty of ability. We don't need anybody, but can you please help us? It's the constant back and forth with him that nobody can take or understand or be able to calculate where we actually truly sit, unless you're looking at independent media or in journalists that are actually on the ground reporting on stuff to actually get the realities on the ground. And even those, the administration is trying to silence. But again, back to infrastructure and stuff that should not be hit. A few days ago, Israel attacked the largest oil field in Iran, pretty much the largest oil field, I think, in the entire world. And this is the South Pars gas field in Iran. Okay, part of this it is so massive. Part of this field actually goes into Qatar, is a part of Qatar, and this country. The attack was done by Israel, hitting parts of this oil field, which then we had to immediately come out and be like, whoa, like we didn't. Trump comes out acting like, oh, we didn't know about this. Israel did this on their own. This also was not Qatar, which, I mean, clearly it wouldn't be, because why would Qatar attack a oil field that they actually, gain from? That would be absolutely silly for them to attack it. And this was all in a way, and this is all in a way in trying to tell Iran, hey, look, this is not Qatar's fault, because immediately after those oil fields were hit by Israel, Iran retaliated, hitting like 3 or 4 oil field and infrastructures across the Gulf. Qatar being one, I think was one in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, I think, or the UAE, one of the other. Anyway, they hit multiple locations. Because, again, it's like, if you hit us, we're going to hit you. Keep in mind, all of the escalation that has happened because either we did it or Israel did it first. Any type of action that is retaliated from Iran and what they decide to hit is because we hit them first. Even a few days ago, back I think it was March the 7th, when there were reports from Iran that we hit a desalination plant. All right, these are plants, water plants that clean water give, and this region is like hugely dependent on desalination plants, especially the Gulf countries, because a lot of this area is desert, and like 70 to 90% of their water is gotten through these desalination plants. And Iran reported that the U.S. struck one of their desalination plants, and so the very next day, on the 8th, they turned around and struck there was a drone strike that did some damage at a desalination plant, I think in Bahrain. And that was to say, hey, if you do this again, we're going to keep doing this. All right. They didn't even do that much damage to it. But the point was, look, you hit us, we're going to hit you back. That's what's going to happen. Don't do it again. And then Trump and our administration turn around and say, okay, but they claim the U.S. and Israel both claim that we didn't do it, that we did not hit their desalination plants. Or didn't hit a desalination plant. But the report was there, and after all the other stuff that we've hit, I seriously don't doubt that we did hit one. Even if it was by accident, or maybe bad information, as what happened with the school is what we claim, that we had bad information. That's how it got hit. But yet we didn't do it also because it was a Tomahawk missile. But yet we're not the only ones that make Tomahawks, although we are the only ones that make Tomahawks, and the few countries do have them. Aren't in the war, and they're not actually doing attacks. So it was clearly us, but yet no, even Iran has Tomahawk missiles, even though they don't. So they attacked themselves, even though they didn't, because it was actually us, because people have fucking sense. But after this gas field attack, Trump releases this. Israel, out of anger for what was taking place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. A relatively small section of the whole has been, it's a weird way of saying that. That's so weird. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. They didn't know about it, so therefore they unjustifiably and unfairly attacked Qatar. But it's not their fault, so let's not retaliate on them any further. But no more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field, unless, check this, unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, as if we have ever needed the consent of Israel for that matter, which is weird to say, as if we would need consent from Israel as if they are the ones in control of this war. I thought we were in wholehearted control and we hold all the cards. That was according to Hexeth. Why would we need to ask consent of Israel to make an attack when this is supposed to be our controlled war? Really fucking weird to say that. Will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. We are so worried and upset about this very relatively small section of the gas field being attacked that we're doing everything we can to mitigate that and make sure that everybody understands that this was an accident. We didn't do it. Qatar didn't do it. So please don't attack Qatar. Why Qatar is like specific in this is also like weird. But Israel won't do it again. We're told Israel not to do it again because this is a very, very vital and important field infrastructure. But if Iran decides to attack Qatar again, a very innocent Qatar, then we will massively blow up the entirety of this very vital and important field that would cause complete economic downfall on a global scale because it is, again, the largest gas field in the fucking world. Like it's such a stupid thing to say. It's such a stupid thing to say. We're so worried about this attack that we're coming out to protect all sides if all possible and to not have this go any further. But yet, if you do decide to attack, then we're going to blow it up in its entirety. Because then, I guess at that point, we won't care that it's going to destroy the global economy. No, we're just going to blow it up. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that would have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's LNG is attacked, I will not hesitate to do so because I am so restrained. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. So we have here. This is from the Telegraph, talking about this attack. The Israeli target was the vast South Pars field, part of the world's largest national gas field and a resource that amounts to more than 80% of Iran's gas consumption. Moments after the missile struck, smoke fire has been risen from the facilities. Iran media reported that gas tanks and parts of refinery were ablaze. The reports were later confirmed by thermal satellite imagery, but the damage to the ground was the least of it. Wars escalate according to a fixed, unwritten set of rules that both sides understand. If you hit military targets, we hit military targets. If you hit transport infrastructure, we hit transport infrastructure, and so on. No surprise then that Iran immediately announced that it would hit oil and gas facilities in the Persian Gulf. Iran drones targeted energy infrastructure across Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia. 2 Iranian ballistic missiles targeted Ras Laffan in Qatar, the world's largest gas facility, causing an uncontrollable blaze that turned the sky crimson and wiped out 17% of the facility's capacity. Predictably, the tit-for-tat strike on energy assets sent global oil and gas prices soaring. Brent crude rose nearly 11% to $119 a barrel on Thursday, and gas prices surged 30%, with investors warning a protracted energy shock, causing stocks and bonds across the world to tumble. Now, this 119 did drop by the end of the day to 110. So it didn't end at 119, but it did spike up to 119 and then drop down to 110 by the end of the day. There have been experts that have claimed that if the oil prices get over 120, that it will be a complete global economic catastrophe for the U.S. and the West. It would surge gas prices and disrupt the global economy in a way that nobody's ready for. Despite starting a war on the world's most sensitive energy area, the U.S. has been careful not to attack Iranian oil and gas facilities, even when Trump ordered the hit on Karg. Coming out aggressively that we only did military targets. Contrast that with his messaging on the early hours of Thursday following the Israeli strike on the South Pars gas field. Israel, out of anger of what's taking place. So Israel, out of anger, that's another thing. Israel is so angry about what's going on that they made an unreasonable, uncontrollable attack on a very precious field. So it's his one way of saying, bad Israel, but yet, and Israel turns around and we make the claim that we didn't know about it, but then Israel turns around and is like, yeah, you did. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar, no way, no shape, we know. Slapdowns did not get much fiercer than that, but Israel must have known it was coming. The Times of Israel, which has a direct line to the Israeli Defense Force and is subject to media censorship, initially reported that the strike was a coordinated effort with the U.S. On Thursday, the Wall Street Journal took a similar line, saying that the U.S. was indeed been informed before then, citing unnamed American and Israeli officials. Netanyahu, the prime minister, said that Israel acted alone and would heed Mr. Trump's demand not to carry out similar attacks in the future. But analysts say the strike is indicative of diverging interest between U.S. and Israel as the war continues. Mr. Trump likes quick wins of the sorts he scored recently in Venezuela, and has said that he have been looking for an off-ramp in the Middle East for over a week. He faces elections in November with petrol price soaring in America, stocks falling, and high street inflation set to start climbing again. He is under pressure from the war in U.S. troops. That is a weird word. I'm sure I didn't say that right. It may be coincidental, but the Israeli strike come just 2 days after Trump said the war will be wrapped up soon. Netanyahu's interests are different. He is at war with his politicians. He is at war with what his politicians have long called the head of the snake, an Iranian regime that long called for Israel's demolition and has founded proxy terrorist groups to help it do that. Speaking at a press conference in Jerusalem on Thursday night, Netanyahu denied he was at loggerheads with Trump, saying cooperation between the two countries was at a level never seen in history. It has been said that for 40 years I've been saying that Iran is a danger to Israel and danger to the world. That is true. You know what else said that? Donald Trump. I don't have to convince Donald Trump about the need to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear program, putting it underground, and being able to launch nuclear-tipped missiles at the United States. He understood that. I did not need to explain to him. He explained it to me. We have brought our friend to the U.S. to a cooperation never seen in history. Yeah, that is for certain. The great collaboration between myself and my great friend Trump is unprecedented. You don't say. You don't say. You don't say. Because no other president was stupid enough to get involved in something like this. On Thursday, Tulsi Gabbard, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, told the House Intelligence Committee that America and Israel goals in Iran were not the same. The objectives that have been laid out by the president are different from the objectives that have been laid out by the Israeli government. Mr. Trump, who toured the Gulf states in May last year to great fanfare, is eager to keep Saudi, Qataris, and Emirates on side. Not only do they control much of the world's gas and oil, but they also house vital strategic U.S. military bases and among the biggest investors in the world, along with war with Iran to escalate, allowing a war on Iran to escalate, to encompass energy infrastructure would be catastrophic, not just for the Gulf and the global economy, but the America's long-term relationship with the region. Israel, of course, does not have the same concerns. Its economy has largely been insulated from the Gulf for the last 5 years. It is traded with the UAE, but ultimately it can survive without them. It is also noticeable that Iran has been escalatory partners since the onset of the war. As we know from the get-go, we got into this because it is stated by Rubio, even though a day later he retracted that and acted like he didn't say it. But he stated that we knew Israel was going to attack, and so we had to preemptively go in with them and attack. Well, we also know is that Israel wants regime change. That's their entire. That's been their entire thing from the get-go. They want and Netanyahu has stated over and over again, we will continue doing this until all of our objectives are concluded. And their objectives is regime change. They will not stop until the Ayatollah is no longer in power. And you've got a lot of things going on here. You've got the Strait of Hormuz, which is causing an economical strain on the entire global stage. You have us asking for help from all these other major countries to try to get involved, which before now they were not. They were basically saying, no, we're not getting involved in this. This is your thing. So we get mad and say, well, we didn't want you anyways. We never needed you. But yet we need you. And yet it seems just coincidentally, then this attack on the oil field happened, on the gas field happens. Now this is threatening that whole hitting that bar of $120 a barrel. and that would cause a global crisis economically when it comes to oil prices. And that threat then turns around and causes all of these countries that were asked to help and denied at first to now there's like 4 or 5, or there's like 5 of them that have come and saying, okay, we might help in some sort of way at some point, to some degree, although it's being reported as if they're just going to come there. They've just 100 did 180 flip. That's what Fox News was acting like. They've done a whole 180 flip, and they're going to help us with all they can possibly help us, because Trump is so strong in his negotiations. When actually what a lot of them are doing is like talking about after the fact helping with certain things, or that they are condemning these attacks and that they will find ways to somehow mitigate in some kind of way. UK is the only country that is actually stated that they would send minesweepers and stuff potentially, and maybe a ship to assist with some stuff, with some movement of ships. But they are the only ones that have actually stated any kind of physical involvement. The others have not stated that whatsoever. And then Israel also making this attack, and this is an attack again on the most vital, largest, and Iran has had a control of a lot of the oil. Iran produces a lot of oil, and although we sanction part of that, they still have business with a lot, with some countries in the region. And they produce a whole lot of oil. And Israel would like to have some of that, like, involvement. But at this point, Israel does not have a lot of involvement with the oil market. But recently, Israel also just opened up a new oil field. It's called like the Leviathan or something like that. Just coincidentally. So I just find it very interesting that they are attacking Iran's most vital oil gas field at the same time that they are just opened up their own like oil gas field or whatever. I can't remember if it's oil gas or whatever, but their own field, largest one that they've ever constructed, to try to get themselves into that field, in that market more strongly, so that they can be like, hey, you can't get it, you can't get from them because they're because they want Iran to have a failed state. That is what's happening. They are attacking every from the very beginning. They've been attacking everything that they could to create a failed state. Because we've allowed them to attack like the government facilities and stuff. Like while we were trying to attack certain like military stuff, they were attacking more of the government type things. That's the reason why the attack on and the initial attacks that killed a lot of the leadership and stuff. There's been more attacks that have killed other potential leadership. That's the reason why Trump would come out saying, that our second and third and fourth suggestions or people that we would have liked to have taken, power of the country have all been killed. That's because Israel killed them. So now who's left? It's like even their objective is to supposedly take out the current regime, but yet they also have taken out all potential leadership that the U.S. had considered to take the place. So it's from the get-go, it looked like Israel was trying to make sure that Iran did not come out of this in a way that they would be able to rebuild in any kind of way, that they would be so fractured that they wouldn't be able to rebuild, and they would be basically a failed state to some degree. Same kind of tactics that they've done in Lebanon. That's created Lebanon damn near a failed state. I mean, this is all a part, again, of the greater Israel, making sure that their biblical enemy, Iran, can no longer threaten them, quote unquote, threaten them. And then after they can't do anything and they're a failed state and they can't make any more, they can't grow their economy because their oil fields are damaged or whatever, then now we have oil fields now, so come take some business from us. And then as we continue to try to take on these other areas, we'll have their oil fields as well, so then we've got full control. That's what this is. This is what this is ultimately about for Israel. We do not have control of this war. We do not have control of Israel. It is continuing to escalate. We have not damaged Iran to the point that they can't retaliate. In fact, their missile strikes, as I said, have continued to grow over the past few days. They're shooting more and more and more. Hitting more and more and more targets that are actually getting hit because the missiles are actually going through. And these are larger, higher performance missiles. Israel objectives and our objectives are not lining up. You have Netanyahu going on in news presses actually talking about boots on the ground and that it's necessary to accomplish regime change, basically. While the U.S. has been trying its best to argue that we were not and had no intentions of doing that, the Trump administration, even though they won't take it off the table, they claim they're trying everything to not have that happen. And been multiple people come out stating that would be like the end of it. Like we would have such losses. That would be the worst case scenario for the U.S. to do this, because the landscape and the makeup of Iran and like it would just be, and which is again would weigh on the effect, the argument around a potential draft again and all this kind of stuff that clearly is very unpopular in the United States and has been for decades. And the fact that people in America did not want this war to begin with. And when I say that, I mean the majority of America. Now, while polls have clearly shown that far-right Trump MAGA supporters are wholeheartedly on the side of this war, which is a whole nother thing to talk about, the majority of America does not want this war. Even parts of the military did not want this war. You literally have the USS Ford that has been brought back in due to a fire that in the quarters area, making it to where soldiers would not be able to sleep or wouldn't have, and it is there's going to be an investigation into that, because it is thought that the actual soldiers created the fire so that they could come home, because they had already been out on the water for longer than what, and on mission for longer than what they were initially told and then that, which was before all of this happened, and then they were being forced to go there, which they did not want to do. This is the second time something has happened on the boat that potentially was going to bring them in. The first one wasn't completely set. I can't remember what the first one was. That something happened, but it wasn't enough for them to pull them in. So then all of a sudden, a fire happened that did damage to some of the quarters, deeming the men to not be able to have a place to sleep and stuff like that. So they were forced to bring the boat in. And it's thought that's because of retaliation, because this group of soldiers, naval military men, had no interest in staying in this war or being a part of this war, or potentially putting themselves in danger for Israel. Now, the investigation is apparently going to be done on that, and I don't know what would come of that investigation. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, we have even people in our own military potentially arson or whatever, like trying to prevent themselves from going in mission. Think about that. Think about that for a second. Again, this war is getting further and further out of hand, and the administration clearly doesn't know how to get out of it, and how to get out of it in a way that they can declare victory, and not look like they didn't actually achieve the objective, like the purpose in doing this all, to begin with. Like having a legitimate reason to have done this to begin with and accomplishing that. Because there's been no clear reason for that, because they've said multiple different reasons for why we did this to begin with. And in order to engage in a war to begin with, there has to be a reasonable, direct threat, which there wasn't, and it has been stated over and over again that there wasn't. Even a Trump loyalist that was appointed by Trump, counterterrorism, can't remember his name, Trent, just resigned because he was stating that there was no threat, there was no imminent threat, and he could no longer support sending our troops to fight a war for Israel. And with the growing concern that Israel will potentially even use a nuke just to accomplish their objectives, especially if they feel like that's the big thing. Even if we were to be like, okay, we've done enough, let's de-escalate this down, stuff's getting out of hand, we'll try to do some work, and with this new Ayatollah, and maybe we can come to some agreement, and let's get out of this. That would not meet Israel's objectives. And at that point, it would, for them, feel like, oh no, our biggest backer is backing out. Would that create enough desperation in them to do something so erratic to achieve what they want to achieve. That's the scary part. And I think that is something that even the administration is probably trying to weigh in, because they know that there's a potential for it. Those in the administration that actually have the sense to calculate that. Let me make that clear. Scary times. It's very scary times. But let me know what you think. Until next time, peace, clear talk. I'm out.